Hi, I'm Lisa from Australian travel and migration blog dreamingofdownunder.com, and today I'm going to talk about the differences between Sydney and Brisbane. I've lived in Sydney for over 5 years and I spent a year living in Brisbane as an exchange student. And they're very different cities, so if you're moving to Australia and you haven't decided where to live yet, I've made this video to help you out. I've also got lots of blog posts with overviews of Australia's major cities, so I'll link those below if you want to take a look. The biggest difference is the size of the cities. Sydney is Australia's largest city with around 5.5 million people, and it takes a good 2 hours to drive from the north of the city to the south. Brisbane, on the other hand, is Australia's third largest city. Melbourne is the second, and Brisbane has around 2.5 million people. If you drive an hour north or south from Brisbane city centre, you'll be in the Gold Coast or the Sunshine Coast, so it doesn't take as long to get around. So if you don't like the idea of living in a really big sprawling city, Sydney is probably not the right place for you. Obviously, you'll need to look into job opportunities in both cities to make sure that you can get work there. The second difference is house prices. So this is so big that it'll probably be the determining factor for a lot of you. Sydney's property is on average around double the price of Brisbane, so you can get a lot more for your money in Brisbane. Prices vary hugely across both cities, so it's worth looking into the areas that you might want to live in. If you want to look into properties, the two big websites in Australia are realestate.com.au and domain.com.au, so have a look at those if you want to do some research. The third difference is beaches. Sydney is really a big beach city. It's got over 100 beaches. It's got an amazing coastline. It's got beaches on rivers and bays and inlets. So it really is a great place if you want to be by the beach. Brisbane, on the other hand, is known as the river city. It has a few beaches on the outskirts, but most of the coastline around Brisbane is mudflats. Brisbane does have a man-made lagoon and beach in South Bank opposite the city that's quite cool, and it does have a few islands off the coastline as well. But if you want to live in a beach community, Sydney would be the better option. However, Brisbane is only about an hour away from the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast, and both of those have really amazing beaches. So if you want to get out to beaches on weekends, that is still really easy in Brisbane. You could even live on the Gold Coast or Sunshine Coast and commute to Brisbane if you work in the city. The fourth difference is the weather. Brisbane and Sydney are a good 10-hour drive apart, so they do have different climates. Brisbane is further north, so it's close to the equator and generally a lot hotter. It has quite hot summers with a lot of humidity, and it also has a rainy season over the summer. Sydney, on the other hand, has a colder winter, so it has more distinct seasons, and it does have a lot of rain, but it's spread out a little bit more throughout the year. Sydney summers do still get humid though and quite hot. In the Brisbane winter, it's generally around 21 degrees, so it's still quite mild, whereas Sydney would be around 16 to 18 degrees. My seventh difference is the pace and general vibe of the cities. Brisbane is known as being a slower paced city. It used to be known as being a bit behind the times, but it's really changed since I was a student there, and it's a lot more modern and cosmopolitan now. But it's still got more of a relaxed feel than Sydney does. Brisbane feels like a really family-friendly city, and there's lots of nice places like South Bank along the river that would be a really nice place to take children. Sydney, on the other hand, is a really big, exciting city. There's lots of things to see and do. There's always a lot of tourists here, all there was before COVID. There's lots of nice old buildings. The harbour is really beautiful and the beaches, so there's always quite a buzz around Sydney. But depending on what you're looking for, that might be a little bit too much for you. But remember, if you're in a corporate job and living in the city and you're going out all the time, your life's going to feel fast-paced regardless of which city you're in, so it really depends how you set yourself up. I live in a beach area in Sydney, about 40 minutes from the city, and I'm never in traffic. I work for myself, so my life doesn't really feel very fast-paced. And remember that fast-paced in Australia isn't really the same as fast-paced in somewhere like the UK. I've met quite a lot of British expats in Australia who have got corporate jobs in Sydney, and they've said that it's so laid back they almost feel like they're sacrificing their career by living here because the work-life balance is so strong. My eighth difference is the friendliness. Brisbane is known as being a very friendly city, almost like a big country town, whereas Sydney is known as being more fast-paced and not as friendly as Brisbane. But I have to say, again, that's on an Australian scale, so I think Sydney, compared to the UK, is really friendly. It's very normal here and expected to just speak to strangers. Often people will say hi in the street, or sometimes they'll wave from their front gardens. If I go to the dog park, everybody knows everyone. People will speak to you at the bus stop. It's very different from in the UK. I've got a friend in London who ended up getting food poisoning and was throwing up on her hands and knees in King's Cross Station, and absolutely no one stopped to help her. That would never happen in Sydney. Everyone would rush to help you. The one problem that I have had in Sydney is that lots of people want to experience living here, but not many of them will stay here permanently, mostly because of the cost. So the first few years it was really hard to make friends because everybody I made friends with ended up leaving either to go abroad or to live in other states. So Brisbane probably has a less transient population. It might be easier to make friends there. My difference number 9 is nature and beauty. Brisbane has lots of lovely natural attractions around the outside of the city that you could visit, whereas Sydney has lots and lots of beaches and national parks and forests in the city. So if you wanted to live somewhere like that, you'd be better off in Sydney, whereas Brisbane, you might live somewhere more suburban and travel to places on the weekends. Obviously in Sydney, it does cost more to live in the amazing places. So if you can only afford to live far inland in the west, then it might take you so long to get to the beach anyway that you would be better off just living in Brisbane and travelling out to the Gold Coast or Sunshine Coast. That's it for my differences between Sydney and Brisbane. Don't forget to check out the blog post I've linked below if you want to learn more about Australian cities. I've also got a free city comparison chart for Australia if you want to look at all the stats and compare the cities easily. I'll link that below. Please comment, like and subscribe for more videos on life in Australia. Thanks for watching.